Hi, I'm here to talk to you today about the Internet of Cats, or how trying new things is scary sometimes. My name's Rachel White. You can find me at Oho on Twitter. And here we go. So I love cats. This is me at a cat cafe in Japan where there's it's hard to tell because the couch is dark and it was all black cats and stuff, but it was the happiest moment of my life. I'm feeding 10 cats at once and it ruled. So yeah, if you wanted to know the level of how much I like cats, that's a good picture that represents it. So trying new things is pretty scary, especially when you're trying new things that you haven't worked with before. Any new project, because it's something that's typically totally new from the beginning, and you have an idea of what it's going to be when you're ultimately done, but it's everything between the start and the finish that you're we'll figure it out later. It'll be good eventually. Also using new technologies for the first time. What I use for this project, I use Node, Socket.io, Johnny 5, and microcontroller stuff, and I'm primarily a front-end engineer. I make things look awesome and do a lot of things that people interact with, but I don't really get into back-end that often. I just make everything look good and let everyone else worry about how it works on the end. I've also never contributed to open source before, which really scares me because people are dicks. And also just putting yourself out there in general, not even in the tech industry, anything. Anytime you're doing something new and putting yourself in a place of scrutiny is terrifying. Making new friends, going to the movies by yourself, going to a restaurant to eat alone. It's weird. And the reason that it's so scary is because even if you have the best confidence ever, there's still an inherent fear of rejection that I think we all have as human beings, even if you don't admit it, you have it. Imposter syndrome, which I have been struggling with for a really long time due to horrible jobs and just thinking that maybe I can't even do this even if I try. The inclusiveness of communities in tech is a big, scary thing. If you look at any of certain communities when discussing about changing the name of a function or method or wanting to include a code of conduct, people are not nice about it. Bad behavior in general. One thing I've noticed a lot about GitHub is there's a lot of the equivalent of the Twitter egg, where there's just a single account, no GitHub commits, but they love to comment on a lot of issues about things that they think are wrong and how it should be. Especially code of conducts. I don't think I need to give examples of all of the angriness around code of conducts, or no code of conducts, which shouldn't even be a thing. What's the kind of bad behavior that we experience? Feigned ignorance is something that I've experienced a lot, especially when I was starting out as a dev. People being oh, you didn't know about this? How could you not know? Everyone knows this. It's not cool. So this is kind of a hard one because I feel there is a hard responsibility for maintainers and also being contributors in open source. Because if you've a repo that's popular enough and you're getting tons and tons of contributions, it's totally hard to pay attention to all of them. But at the same time, if you're making that first contribution and it goes ignored and then somebody else does the same thing and it gets merged in, it can hurt. Because people have feelings. Like I just said, demanding user base, it's both sides. It's not easy for anyone. This one really makes me mad. Stop making pull requests and commits just so that your GitHub timeline will be green, because it is not a measure of your self-worth. Nobody gives a shit if it looks like you've done 20 things in a day if you're just making stupid pull requests, like fixing a typo in something for the sake of just getting that in there. It's annoying. Insulting the contributor, I think I just did that, but for no reason, calling someone stupid or doing any of the other things that I just asked. Or just disagreeing over trivial things in general, like the naming conventions. It's unacceptable. when I was getting ready to do research for like all of my fears about open source and other things that people have experienced, I polled a bunch of people on Twitter to see what they've had with that type of thing. And everyone that answered identifies as female, which is one thing. Jen Schiffer said, vulgar and brutal harassment, expectation and entitlement of your time without any compensation offered. Another Jen. Everyone is not named Jen, I promise. Unfortunately, the harassment was enough for me to stop trying before I had other problems, so that's where I'm at. She didn't even like get to the point where she was ready to like jump in and be a contributor because she was afraid of the other experiences that people had had. This next person was too afraid for me to even put their Twitter name on here. Entitlement of time, the assumption you immediately want feedback when you're just starting, and nerd pedantics obstructing learning. This is a coworker of mine, Caroline Cinders. Mansplaining mainly, and a general fear that any commit I make will be opened as an issue and debated about. Hashtag real fear. And Caroline does have a real fear because she is an outspoken journalist and contributor to the gaming industry with articles and feminism stuff, and people didn't like it to the point where her mother got swatted. So she has actual physical things that go from what we think of as a safe place on the internet that's making her not safe in real life. Sent a pull request with bug fixes that got ignored for almost a year, after which the maintainer wrote the same fixes and closed the issue and said, oops. Tessa's is one of my favorites. Mansplaining my own code to me and trolling. She made Echo Chamber JS. I don't know if any of you saw this. It's basically a small library that is a script that you install that gives you a comments form on a site that stores all of the comments in local storage. So whenever anybody types anything, they're like, oh, this is so dumb, I hate this. And then they hit send and they see it and they feel accomplished. Like, oh, I was a jerk to that person on the internet today. But then nobody else sees it and it's really great. And so some of the issues that were opened up for her was this person with the Steve Jobs avatar that says I dead on it, with the issues you're fat that they then changed to you're fat and insecure. She closed it and tagged as won't fix. And then this other person who tried to make it say, let me read this to you because it's really ridiculous. Web development or web design does have a psychological part because besides the technical part, and this library is intended to give the illusion to the user that he used the gender he, engages with the website by commenting on it. And then he goes on to say that there's like some kind of like psychological connection with the person that made the website and the user base. And while I won't disagree with that, I think that anybody that makes a space on the web should make it safe for everyone and have it be inclusive. For stuff like this, it's the internet and nobody owes you shit. So that is ridiculous. So my proposals for new contributors is find something you're passionate about. For me, it's cats. Or something new that you want to try. Make something cool and open source it yourself. That way the constructive criticism that you get is from your peers. Because hearing feedback from people that you know care about you as a person and are invested in you growing is a million times more helpful than people just looking at this code and being like, you forgot a couple semicolons and this is garbage. So yeah, I like cats. We're moving on to the more technical part with the kitties. I've been talking about building a catbot feeder forever. I was always like, cool, I know what I want to do. It's just going to be like a motor that connects to it, and I push a button, and it works, and it made so much sense in my head. I was like, this is going to be easy. I decided to work with Nodebots because the community is seriously amazing. The small interactions that I've had with them at JSConf 2014 and JSConf 2015, everyone would answer questions for me and help me out. It was really awesome. So then I decided, okay, cool, I'll make a node-based cat feeder that works over the web. So I made RoboKitty, and this is the logo. I'm going to tell you about my cats now because they're adorable. This is Reset Smith. He is the handsome one. He's named after an android. And this is Rick Deckard. He's the dumb one. And he's also named after an android. And the problem with feeding them is Rick eats way too much and Reset doesn't eat enough. So the automated feeder would make it easier than like me having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when Rick wants food. So like I talked about earlier, I used Node.js, which we all know what it is if we're here, Johnny 5, Socket.io, and then I bought an Arduino Uno, and I was like getting into it, and I was like, oh no, I need the internet. I don't want to deal with a Wi-Fi shield or a breakout board because I'm not exactly sure what those are, so let me get something else. And I got an Arduino Uno, and then I found out that it wasn't really compatible with Johnny 5, so then I bought a particle photon. And it works great because there's Wi-Fi enabled on it from the start. So yeah, I did all the hard work from you and spent all the money. Don't worry about it. The part list that you need is a dry goods dispenser. It's just like a cereal dispenser that you get at a continental breakfast. It's like $16 on Amazon, I think. The particle photon kit with the breadboard, that is $29. It's $19 if you already have the breadboard. A continuous servo, which is about $10 to $20. A 4AA battery pack, because you got to power the servo. And then miscellaneous hardware accessories, like male-to-male jumper wires, soldering iron, heat shrink. So I got all my parts together, and I'm ready to build this thing. And then I pretty much felt like the otter, and I was just like putting stuff together and hoping it would work. So like things went pretty good with the whole entire build. Everything went pretty smooth except for the fact that electricity terrifies me, and I thought I was going to shock myself the whole time. I also don't understand what I call Ohm's law electricity math, and I was like, I don't understand, so let's just hope everything works. I also didn't realize that I needed to actually power the servo. I thought if I plugged it in to the microcontroller that it would magically work somehow. It didn't, so. I also didn't know how to solder. But YouTube, if you search for how to solder two wires together, there's a ton of really helpful videos. And I chose a very polite doomsday prepper to watch to help me. It was a great short video, and he wasn't really talking about any other agendas, so thanks. So I get all my code together, and I'm ready to test. I'm super excited. The code's working great. The cron job is working as intended. The servo's strong enough to turn the feeder handle, but it won't stop. So it'll just keep on dispensing food constantly, and it won't turn off. And I definitely coded for it to stop, but it didn't. And I started freaking out on Twitter. I have this really bad tendency whenever I get stuck in a bug to completely ruin Git branches by merging and rebasing and doing a bunch of horrible stuff. And then with bugs, I try everything, and then I get mad and post about it. So I complained. I censored it in case anybody's offended. That ended up being I changed the access token and forgot to update it in the code. There was a bunch more of these, but I only have 20 minutes. So I looked to my peers for help. I went to the Johnny 5 Gitter chat with people who were really helpful, and they asked me what I was doing wrong, and I was like, I'm not doing anything wrong, I swear. Brooklyn.js is a meetup in New York that I go to all the time, and they made a special NodeBots room for me because I was complaining too much. But they were helpful, and it was cool. It wasn't like, oh, go away. It was like, we'll come here with you. And then friends reviewed my code, and they were like, there's nothing wrong. I don't know what's happening. So I probably cried a little bit a couple times, and I was like, I don't know. So what was going on? But then something really awesome happened. It was a bug in the library I was using. Rick Waldron, the creator of Johnny 5, was probably sick of me messaging him on Twitter. And he went to the store that I bought the servo from, which he told me, stop buying shitty servos. And I was like, it looked good. I don't know, it's a good quality servo. He bought it, took it home, and realized that, well, what I didn't know is servos have a thing called a deadband that let you adjust when it actually stops. And he forgot to put the code for dead servos that need the deadband adjustment into the stop code. So I could have done everything, and it would never stopped. And he also gave me the credit for finding it, which was really nice. So really quick, I will show you my client code, or server code. Whoa, calm down. So it's just really simple. You set up your servo like you would need to. This is the original code too. It looks way different now because so many awesome people help me like add routing and stuff. So you start your servo up, or not your servo, you start your server app, you set up socket.io, you set up your board with Johnny 5. This is the function that creates the cron string from the input that is on the client code, which I'll show you in a second. We made everything cleanly divisible into 24 because I don't like math. When the board's ready, you see the little deadband thing that actually works now since the library's been updated. And all it does is socket.io listens for the like event handling on the front end and then starts it and stops it. That's like really all it is. And the documentation for Johnny 5 is so amazing. You can, if you have like a small concept of what you want to build and you're like, I want it to do this and this, like you can find the documentation to tell you exactly how to run it, and then you can adapt it as you see fit. The client code was just all my HTML, and then down at the bottom I have some like, turn on this button and then emit click to the socket, and that will be the instantaneous feeding. And then there's also the scheduler that I just talked about. This is what the website looks like. So you push feed me immediately, and then the cats are like, yeah, it's great. So I'm almost ready to open source it. When I started this project, I really wanted to make it accessible to anybody, even if they didn't know how to code. So I spent I was like, oh, it's going to be so easy to write the README. It was, and it was really hard. It was probably maybe harder than the code because I took every step to be like, you might not have Node installed, so do this. This is what a CLI is. Do this. And so I wanted people to review that as well as the code to make sure that everything was readable and easy to use. I put a call out on Twitter for code reviews, and some people helped me. Some people in this room helped me. If you help me, can you like raise your hand? Yeah, okay, just one person. But like, you did so much, it ruled, thank you. Yeah, the response was overwhelming. Ashley, did she leave? Oh, she's right there. You helped. Yeah, so many people helped. Like, look at that lovely little curve thing. People like really made a bunch more commits, and that's why I have to show my old code, because the new code looks totally different and clean and better. So I'm ready to launch. It's really great, and it's ready to go, and I'm like, I announced the time, I have to do it. So they refactored it and added routing, you added routing. Ashley made it an NPM module. They reviewed the README for language, and they liked it. People like told me they liked it before I even open sourced it. So I took some cute little product shots of my cats using the feeder. I took this amazing animation, and then it's ready for launch day. I changed my private repo to public. I tweeted about it. I submitted a link to Hacker News, even though I really don't care what they have to say, and then I took it out. And when I woke up, I was on the front page of Hacker News. A lot of people had retweeted and favorited my link. It got starred over 500 times at this point, and then this one is probably the coolest. I'm huge in Japan now. This is like, it's like the Engadget of Japan. They had over like 300,000 Twitter followers, so my timeline was just Japanese, which is, I think, what happens when you talk about cats and tech. So basically what I learned from the whole entire project is, like, don't be afraid of the unfamiliar, because while you don't know it at the beginning, when you're done, you will, and then you'll be able to tell other people about it. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. I struggled with asking for help for a really long time because I was like, oh, if I ask for help, they're going to assume that I don't know what I'm doing. But now I'm lazy, and I'm like, you know this, I don't, so tell me so I will, and also so I might not have to do it now. People really like cats, so if you build something that's cat-related, it'll be good. Don't downplay your abilities either. When I was introducing this project a lot to people earlier on, I would be like, it's not that cool, it's not that impressive, but, and people were like, stop saying that because it is cool. Also, I like NodeBots a lot. They're really easy and fun, and you should try them. Last thing I'm going to do really quick is demo the cat feeder for you. It's over in that corner by Cassandra, and I bought 2 separate hoppers so that I don't cross-contaminate the cat food with the candy, so don't worry. So if you want candy, feel free to, you don't have to put your hand there. Let it go all over the floor. It's way cooler. All right, so here we go. Let's do it a couple times. All right, so that's the cat feeder. I lost my mouse. Where are we? There, and that's me, so thanks.